It's time for Todd McShay's Mock Draft 4.0. We've seen how most of the NFL free agency has played out. So with teams being much more clear, Todd projects every first-round pick in the 2020 NFL Draft. And just like that, we say hi, hello, and welcome to Todd McShay's Mock Draft SportsCenter Special 4.0. Here to break it down, Mel Kiper Jr., our own front office insider, Louis Riddick, our quarterback guru, Dan Orlovsky, and, of course, Adam Schefter, who technically never takes a second off. All right, let's get right to it with the number one pick overall in the draft, and that, of course, would be Joe Burrow from the LSU Bengals going to the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow off the top of the draft, coming off arguably the greatest college, no, forget it, not arguably. It's the greatest college football season anyone ever seen. 60 touchdown passes, that's a record. 65 total touchdown passes, that's a record. He led the team to 720-plus points, that's a record. They beat 7 top 10 teams in the AP poll. That had also never happened before. Joe Burrow goes off the board. For more on this, let's bring in Mel Kiper Jr. Mel, is there any chance that the Bengals will Bengal this?
No, and I think Adam can talk about this even more than I can in terms of Joe Burrow being the lock pick here, just because of what happened to 2 other players, Trey. You think about a guy like Chase Young. Chase Young was quiet the final 3 games of the season. You can excuse it away because of suspension. Bottom line was he didn't have the sacks. Then you think about Tua. Had it not been for the medical, he would have been in that discussion heavily, but he does have the 3 lower extremity injuries, which leads you to Joe Burrow, who nailed the entire year perfectly. Didn't have a hiccup, was phenomenal in the Final Four in the playoff games against elite opposition. Did it against elite opposition all year in the SEC at LSU. When expectations rose, he had answers. And as I say, interviewed well, did it all. Joe Burrow made the most of this one opportunity with Joe Brady in this offense with improved wide receiver play to guarantee, because of Tua's situation, as I say, Chase Young not being a game wrecker late in the year, guarantee that the number one pick overall will be Joe Burrow to the Bengals.
All right, Mel, thanks. Stay right there. We'll get back to you in a minute. Let's bring in everybody else here. And Dan, let's start with you. I mean, not only did Joe Burrow win every game he played last year, he won every press conference, including the one at the Heisman Trophy where he broke off for 30 seconds and ad-libbed about the need for food bank assistance in his hometown of Athens, Ohio. Literally, everything he did last year going into this season touched the gold. Are you convinced that the Bengals will make this the number one overall pick?
Oh, yeah, this is an easy selection for the Bengals, and they should be happy that they have the number one pick, and it happens to be Joe Burrow's year to come out. You know, when you look at the production, the season that he had, that's worthy of being talked about. But then as he's transitioning to the NFL, it is about the traits. And there's 2 things that really separate Joe Burrow from not only this class, but a lot of classes. One, things you can't coach. All right, so his instincts are absolutely outstanding. His instincts within the pocket and understanding feel and color. And then 2, his reactionary football, like his ability to create offense from bad stuff, is very old school Steve Young or new school Russell Wilson. And those are just traits that will transfer over, and you're not going to find coaches that can coach it into him. So he's the runaway number one pick for the Bengals.
All right, Louis, we'll get to the traits with you in a minute. But Adam, as the team that holds the number one overall pick in the draft, a lot of times you have a lot of people that call. From what you've been hearing, how adamant are the Bengals that this is going to be their guy?
I think that's their intention at this point, Trey. I think they plan to take Joe Burrow. Hey, listen, if the phone lines light up and there's a team like the Miami Dolphins that makes an offer that you just can't refuse, maybe you listen at that point in time. But the Dolphins or any other team would be put into a situation where they're going to have to convince the Bengals with an offer that would be too good to pass up for Cincinnati to trade out of that slot. And look, the draft is 3 weeks from Thursday, so a lot can still happen here. You don't know how it will unfold. But as it is today, March 31st, the Bengals would plan to go ahead and take Joe Burrow. He's from Ohio. His parents still live in Ohio. His girlfriend's from Cincinnati. Again, it's all in place for the Bengals to make that pick unless some team just blows them out of the water at this point in time.
And look, there are a potential number of quarterback-needy teams that are drafting somewhere between 5 and 14 on this thing, which could change. But Louis, Dan mentioned traits, and that's so important because it's one thing to look at highlights. It's another thing completely to look at how a skill set transitions from college to the NFL. As you look at Burrow, as a guy who played in the NFL and was part of front offices, what do you think about those transferable traits?
Yeah, I think they're spectacular. And look, I'll take it a step further. I'll look at it from a defensive player's perspective. As a safety, like I played, if I was sitting there defending him, I would say this. He has tremendous field vision. He's someone who sees everything. It's one of the things that you hear Andy Reid talk about when he talks about Patrick Mahomes. Joe has tremendous field vision. He has tremendous decision-making capabilities. He has tremendous accuracy. He can drive the ball with velocity. He can throw the ball with touch. He can throw the ball short, intermediate, and deep. And then, ultimately, and I think one of the things Dan was referring to is the fact that when it's not there, when it's not all by design and it doesn't all happen in rhythm, he can make something happen with his legs to throw or with his legs to run. Now, admittedly, he had some tremendous, tremendous weaponry this year. I mean, Jamar Chase, if he was coming out in this draft, would be the first wide receiver taken. The guy's absolutely ridiculous. It's silly how good he is. But Joe Burrow made him, along with Justin Jefferson, look very, very good. And if I was a defender playing against Joe Burrow this past year at LSU, I would be like, I don't really know what to do with this guy given all the weapons that he has. And if I was a defender in the NFL, I would say this. If the Cincinnati Bengals, this is what's going to determine what happens with him, if the Bengals can surround him with good protection and some weaponry, there's no reason why Joe Burrow shouldn't have a tremendous, tremendous career.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.